All right, all. It has happened. Dua Lipa has dropped an album. Get excited? Maybe you're not. I don't know. But today I'm going to give you my reaction. And so stay tuned as we break down Dua Lipa's new album, Radical Optimism. All right, all. So I had a moment to listen to Dua Lipa's new album, and I'm just going to give you my opinion, guys. I want to disclose any reactions that you're hearing. They're all opinion, obviously, right? And art is subjective to opinion, and so I think that's an important message to get through with artists, is some people will like your music, some people will not like your music. That was very liberating for me when I embraced that, because it took off the pressure of trying to create for the masses, when really it's important to kind of understand who's your audience, and how to engage with them to make them fans. And that can come down to a smorgasbord of things, which is your music, but it's also your personality, what kind of messages that you want to have come across. But that's just a little pre-disclosure as we get into this here, because I'm going to be giving my opinion. And hopefully that will help anyone who is an artist and just kind of having an understanding of not having to create for the masses and creating. Truthfully, the roots of it all start from being authentically yourself, creating music that way, and that will inevitably draw in those who are into you. And then again, I think the kind of icing on the cake is just the personality and the message, and with social media, that's become something that is important. So without further ado, what are my thoughts on the Dua Lipa latest album, Radical Optimism? I think it is a great sequel. To me, there is, right, when you think to her previous album, I don't think that it is completely off the wall from what her roots are, where she's come from, right? I think two artists can do a couple of different things, right? We saw this with Beyonce recently, and please, guys, don't be blowing up the comments whether you think it's country or not, or maybe do, I don't know, go to town, whatever. But there is a whole thing, Beyonce's gone country, and people are saying it's not country, but whatever you feel it is, right? She did drop her album in the country genre, on all the charts there, and so forth. So that is a complete shift when you just think about genre for her. So that's more surprising. It definitely has created more of a stir. I would definitely say breaking through the noise of social media and just the industry and just relevance and so forth. It is definitely something that had people up in arms, really passionate about spending their time communicating about it and talking about it. But she went another direction. She completely rebranded things and went into the country realm of things. So that's far off, right? And then I think people do a nice follow-up album where it's obviously not the same music, but it will fit really nicely in a playlist of other songs, right? So, to me, there's Mediterranean flares to it. There is the disco vibes. I feel like we get that with Houdini, right? I really like that song. I think it's super catchy. And so if we listen to a little bit of that there, right?
The hit Broadway musical sensation.
Let's skip through that. This is the opening track right here. We have End of an Era. That can, I'd be curious to see some really cool mashups. But again, it has that kind of smooth pop dance vibes, right? She's not going folk. It just made me think of folklore, right? Like when Taylor Swift kind of dropped that album, it was a little different than the pop kind of stuff that she had done previously. So I think if we kind of think about this in relation to other artists and their albums there. But yeah, so I think, I was going to go to Houdini. Hello. Let's see. Right? She has like those like 80s. She goes back to the 80s, 70s vibes happening there. Is very reminiscent of the previous album and stuff that she had there, right? And this was the lead single that they kind of dropped prior to the whole album dropping. So maybe it was more of like to bring in the audience back in. And then strategic business-wise, they didn't go too far off. So does it create as much of an effect as someone just completely dropping something that is out of nowhere? I don't think so. But I think the loyal fans are going to appreciate it, especially if they like the last album. So for me too, it's like, think about a movie, right? A whole franchise of movies. You have like the Hunger Games, and you have just each one of those different ones, and they complement each other. And sometimes some are more successful than others, but ultimately the goal is to kind of have this track of things that takes the customer, and I say it in that sense because it's people that are buying stuff, right? So when you think about this, hopefully the artist is creating from a point of authenticity and what they feel, but then it's like, okay, great, is the whole business model or like the labels and stuff like that, they got to think about like, well, how are we going to roll this out to the masses? I did see a commentary on it that was really interesting, talking about rolling it out and just the imagery that's used in like the whole album cover, which is basically like a shark in her, which is interesting because just her whole social media and so forth, even at the Met Gala recently, it was like these dark black undertones, almost like a little gothic in some regards, and some of the lead up. So I don't know, kind of interesting that they win. It gives me summer vibes too. That was the other thing that I felt. I think it's a perfect time to drop the album because it is very pop dance. So like it's just a good time to kind of roll that out and roll out these different singles here. Because again, it is true to her and what I think the fans and the listeners are going to want to. One of the songs that I thought was really cool too, slowing down a little. Again, like just smooth. Even in like the more mellow, slower stuff, it still has that kind of like, right? That kind of vocal melody. It's catchy. It's very on point with her. Right? I mean, listen, I'm like going through this here. They almost like going from that one to this one. It's like they could just be like the same song. Right, here we go back, a little bit upbeat. So even flipping through this, you can kind of just hear like the cohesiveness of it. There'll be great remixes to this, I think, for the club and stuff like that. I mean, just slower one. I'm trying to get like Falling Forever. That was cool there. Yeah, here's the song. So, I mean, listen to it yourself. Is this like album of the year? I don't think so. But I think it's like a really great album, and I think it is catchy and fun and something to listen to in the car, on the beach, with your I mean, it's going to be in the clubs and all that. I'd be curious to see what the DJs are going to do. Some good remixes on this. But yeah, I don't think it's kind of like, too, to kind of wrap this up. I think about when Adele, we were waiting for her to release the follow-up of like Hello, right? That whole album there. And when Easy on Me came out, and I love Adele, I just felt like it was like a good follow-up to a Hello. It didn't like shock me. I was waiting to see like, ooh, is she gonna, I think anytime we see an artist, like, ooh, what are they gonna do? And you can kind of get some glimpses of that with their rollout of like the different clips or like the different visuals that they put out there. But that being said, I think even like going back to Adele, I don't think she really dropped much, right? Like it was kind of like, ooh, this whole mystery. And she, again, just stayed true to her roots. She didn't go kind of rogue and experiment in different ways. And maybe in the future, both of these artists will. But for the time being, I think it's a solid album. I think she's always, I like her vocals, I like her timbre, I like the tone of her voice. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll get album of the year. I don't think so. It could be wrong, but comment below your thoughts on the album. All right, over and out.